very much. Hi, welcome. I'm Jason Barnard. This is Larry Kim. I'm sure everybody knows who Larry is. I'm kind of new to the scene, so I'm introducing myself. Lovely to meet you, Larry.
It's great to do something with you finally, Jason.
Yeah, it's amazing. First thing I did when somebody said, or if Anton said, you're going to be on screen with Larry Kim, first thing I did, because my speciality is brand SERPs and personal brand SERPs, what comes up when I search your name? And I search your name, and it's really impressive. No, you've done a great job. The orange color in the background comes up all the time, and I think that's a great piece of branding you've done there.
You know, it's funny. It's like an old photo from like 4 years ago, and I just can't change it because I don't have access to that wall anymore.
But I now associate orange with Larry Kim, and I think that's wonderful. The other thing I noticed is your Twitter account comes up top. You're obviously very, very active on Twitter.
It's a kind of a weakness, yeah. It's like a waste of time.
You love Twitter.
Yeah, you know, it's it's great. Like, it's just a really great community, you know. So.
Yeah, I really like it because it's a mixture of friendly, fun, and informative.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and then on the right hand side we've got your knowledge panel. So Google's understood who you are, and Mobile Monkey comes up. So Mobile Monkey is the reference for you, which means you control your own presence in the knowledge graph, which is amazing.
You know, I don't know how that works, but that's great.
Sorry, in that case, you don't know how it works, but you're actually very good at it. And when I look at the list, you've got LinkedIn, Inc.com, Medium.com, which is something you're going to talk about later on with the slide deck, how you got so many views on Medium, Search Engine Journal, Facebook, Mark Growth, and Think Growth. All very big names. Larry King, you've nailed it, man.
Okay, thanks, Jason. That's you made my day.
And the other thing is unicorns. You love unicorns. When I think of unicorns, I think of Despicable Me with the little girl who sings unicorns. Is that your view, or is it?
You know, I apologize. Some unicorns have really jumped the shark. Like, they've gotten a little crazy in the last, 3, 4, 5 years. But I just want to say I've been a fan of unicorns, for a long, long time, like way before like My Little Pony and all this stuff. And I actually think that I may have had something to do with helping popularize unicorns over the last few years. So like, I am the original unicorn lover, and don't hate me because they've gotten so popular now. Yeah, that's sort of my story. So.
Yeah, being a precursor is difficult. I understand. I used to wear odd socks when I was a punk as a kid, and now everybody's doing it, and I feel a little bit the same. But I think my level is a little bit lower than yours. You've nailed the unicorn universe.
People send me unicorns from all over the world, so that's kind of funny. Like they whenever they find a unicorn stationery or a stapler or they just send it to my office. There's like hundreds of unicorns there, so it's really fun.
Brilliant. So unicorns do exist. They exist all over the world, and we have unicorns in Facebook ads, and you're going to tell us all about it. I'm really keen. Off you go, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jason. And thanks, everyone, for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about a topic that is super near and dear to my heart, and that is Facebook advertising hacks and crazy ideas that you can use for your own campaigns next year. Just briefly introducing myself, I'm from Canada, from a kind of a place that's called Winnipeg. It's famous for being colder than Mars for most of the year. I'm slightly obsessed with unicorns. There's over 200 unicorns in this deck. I'm going to just warn you. And I'm kind of famous for starting a company called WordStream. That was about 10 years ago. I started this company all by myself in a Panera Bread it's like a bakery that offered free Wi-Fi and free Diet Coke refills, and also it was a free office space basically. And the company grew to over 300 people today, managing about $1 billion of ad spend for tens of thousands of customers worldwide and employing over 300 people. So we did move out of the Panera Bread. It was a really exciting journey for me. It was my first startup, starting from literally nothing and growing to about 55 million in revenues last year, and 16 million in earnings. The company was acquired last year by Gannett for $150 million. And which is, that's a pretty good outcome if you consider that I only raised about $20 million in venture funding. And if people wonder like, what's that like? Honestly, it's a relief because like I'm in the marketing industry and I talk about like how to grow your business and stuff like this. And it would have been totally embarrassing if it was a total failure or something like that. Just a joke. I have a family, 2 boys, age 1 and 5. That's Julian and Oliver right there, and my beautiful wife Kaylee. She's like a heart surgeon. That's enough about me. Let's go talk about why you're here. That is our top 7 ad hacks for 2020, and I promise you this will be the greatest Facebook ad webinar you've ever attended, because the way I define hacks is not like stupid obvious things. I'm not gonna say like, oh hey guys, you gotta test ads and that's the hack. No guys, that's not a hack. That's just common sense. You see what I'm saying? So when I define a hack is it's sort of like a non-obvious loophole that is, it's not illegal, okay? It's totally legal, and if you do it in this kind of crazy way, you can potentially generate super high impact stuff. And the way that I've done this today is I made it very easy for you to copy. So you can copy all of these campaigns in your own things. And by the way, all the slides that you're looking at today, you can get them yourself. It's bit.ly/SEMrush-Larry, okay? All right, so here's the problem, guys. Facebook ads, they used to be so amazing, and I fell in love with them like 7 or 8 years ago, and they were incredible. You could target anything, anybody, and the main problem is that the prices have gone up a lot. So like, audiences that I used to target here in the U.S. that were around $1, it's more like $100 per CPM, just in the last 6 years. And that's a problem because every 1% increase in cost per click and CPM is a 1% decrease in the return on investment. And the prices are going up, 20-30% per quarter. And so basically, if you're using last year's ad strategies, I'm telling you, it's not going to work. You're just losing money probably, and it's time to rethink that strategy. And so I wanted to give you my top favorite strategies that I use for my own campaigns. All of these ideas I've originated myself. Like I didn't read somewhere else. These are just unusual loopholes that I have discovered as I am just running these Facebook campaigns for fun. All right. And so my number 7 Facebook ad hack is called the inverted unicorn ad hack. The inverted unicorn ad targeting method. And then this is a pretty crazy one. Sometimes it's easier to describe. By the way, don't worry if you've never heard of the inverted unicorn. This is just my own terminology. I just name things after different types of unicorns, okay? So best way to describe the inverted unicorn ad targeting method is to give you an example, all right? So this is a crazy ad, a real ad on Facebook, and it says, it's a t-shirt offer. It says, life took me to England, but I'll always be an Arizona girl. And if you look at this t-shirt, it has a picture of England. And then in the middle, that's actually the state of Arizona. So this is an incredible ad. Look at the people who are commenting on this ad. Sherry Bell says, how many Arizonans live in England? And Mimi Drake is freaking out. She's saying, is my phone listening to me? This is creepy. So the question is, how are these crazy ads that provoke such an emotional response and really stop you dead in your tracks and get your attention? Like, how is this possible? And believe it or not, they're not using any crazy custom audiences. They're not using any crazy third-party data. This is all legitimate, Facebook targeting. They're just using it in a different way from the way that you're using Facebook ads. And let me describe to you kind of the story here. And so basically the way that this came my way was that the anchor, the news anchor of CNN wrote me an email the other day, and she was just asking me like, hey, I used to, live in Arizona, but then I worked in Washington D.C. for CNN for 12 years, okay, and then I moved to the UK. And she's like, how the heck is this Facebook know that I lived in Arizona 12 years ago? All right, and it wasn't that hard. A lot of you. I'm just curious how many of you can figure this out. So Facebook, everyone knows you can target by geography. So that's like, you can target women who live in England. And some of you might know that there's a way of targeting a behavior called recently moved. Okay, so that's kind of interesting, but it's not the full story. So there's two really clever things that are happening in the inverted unicorn ad targeting method. The first thing that they're doing is they're targeting an uncorrelated interest. So what they're doing is they're saying people who live in England, who are women, who recently moved, and who happen to like local businesses such as high schools or sports teams or universities that are located in the state of Arizona. So what they're doing is, that doesn't mean that they lived in Arizona. But if you combine the fact that they now live in England and they recently moved, it's not a bad bet. It's not a bad guess to say that that's where they originated from. Okay, so what they're doing is they're kind of making a guess. Okay, and the second thing that they're doing is they're kind of letting the reader, the consumer of this ad, know that we're making this guess about you. Okay, and they're reflecting that knowledge back in sort of a really creepy ad, and so this is really genius, I think, because it really strikes to the core of fundamental Facebook ad targeting principles. All right, so conventional wisdom in Facebook ad targeting says you're supposed to target related interests, okay? But what the inverted unicorn is saying is that you should go after unrelated interests. Like, what's the relationship between people who live in England, who recently moved, and who happen to like some local bar, in Arizona, in some city in Arizona? Like, these are totally unrelated, right? And so just to give you an example of what I'm talking about between related and unrelated interests. So you have, just say you're like SEMrush, or say you're like Mobile Monkey, that's my company, and we're trying to sell marketing software to marketers like you. Okay, so the conventional wisdom says, well, why don't we look for people who have certain interests, like interest in MailChimp, or interest in email marketing, or people who like Constant Contact, and then we kind of draw that circle, and then we say, well, why don't we narrow down that circle with additional kind of demographics, like that they have a job title that has something related to marketing. Okay, so that's sort of how you target ads, up until today. Like, it's, when you click this little button here, see that button that says suggestions? Okay, what it's suggesting is it's suggesting related interests. So it's going to say like people who like SEMrush, or people who like, content marketing or SEO. Like, it's going to keep suggesting related interests. Okay. And what I'm saying is that that's the old way of doing it. The new way of doing it is you should come up with crazy, like kooky, not unrelated examples. Here's an example of inverted unicorn ad targeting. So rather than just say we're trying to sell marketing software here, rather than targeting people who like MailChimp or HubSpot or SEMrush, we're going to overlay that interest, like people who like marketing, with people who like Game of Thrones, like people who like the Sansa Stark, fan page, or the Jon Snow fan page, or, these are very niche Facebook likes. And so these people who like these pages are super fans of Game of Thrones. Okay. So the question is, what's the relationship between people who like Game of Thrones and people who like marketing, email marketing? Nothing. They're totally unrelated. They are totally uncorrelated. And so nevertheless, I'm saying that that is a valid targeting segment. Why? So that you can create very clever ads that don't just speak to one of their interests, email marketing, but speaks to simultaneously to 2 or 3 or 4 of their interests, thereby really stopping them cold and thinking like, wow, this ad is like really just for me, or really speaks my interests. So this is an example of an email marketing company using kind of Games of Thrones kind of imagery, and the result is incredible. So you can see here the ad buy. It generates a CPM of $1.36, which is kind of like the prices that I was seeing 5 or 6 years ago. Now it's closer to $100, guys. And the reason why this is the case is because you can raise the engagement rates, which the ad auction kind of, if people are clicking on this thing like crazy, Facebook likes to show ads that people like to engage with, and that's simple. So that was one example, but believe it or not, the problem with that example is that Game of Thrones isn't a niche interest. It's like so globally popular that I don't know, maybe like 20% of the world has heard of Game of Thrones, and watches it. You know what I mean? So like it's not so crazy like saying like, hey, I used to be I live in England, but I'm always an Arizona girl at heart. You see what I'm saying? Like that's crazy. So the thing about this inverted unicorn targeting method is it works better with more increasingly niche targeting. Okay, so like here's an example of a story that I published the other day. It was a blog post that I wrote about fake news and fake ads on Facebook and how you can use it to influence elections. Okay, so I basically wrote an article about this topic, and it was just a kind of a research interest that I was interested in learning about, I'm not making any money off of this. It's just a stupid blog post. But I did want to share the audio. I did want to share my blog post, and so I spent about $50 promoting the article on Facebook ads, and it generated with a $50 ad spend 1.3 thousand likes, 120,000 reach, 35 shares, 68 comments, and again, this was all for $50. And so the question is, how on earth does a $50 ad spend go this far? And the answer is the inverted unicorn. So the key to the success of this ad campaign is the image. In that image is a guy named Senator Vreenak of the Romulan Star Empire. Okay, so this is a very obscure character who only showed up in one episode of Star Trek IX, which is an obscure, Star Trek series. It wasn't even that popular. And this is one episode of a fairly unpopular show that aired 20 years ago. Okay, I just happen to remember this this episode. It was about I'm kind of dating myself. It was about fake news. Okay, so I just thought, well, why don't I just use that funny image? Okay, and so when I was targeting this ad, I thought the people who would want to watch this, to read this article, would be liberals, because they were so mad about the election and they want someone to blame, and they want to say like, oh, see, it was the Russians and Facebook is to blame. It's like I thought that liberals would be interested in reading my article on fake news. The problem was that there was when I added liberals in the targeting method, like in Facebook ads, there was 55 million of them. You see what I'm saying? And I only had $50 to spend. So why on earth would you target 55 million people with $50? That's crazy. So I overlaid this crazy, obscure interest of people who also like Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And that kind of cut down the audience to tens of thousands of people instead of millions of people. And I know that was the reason why this worked, because if you look at the comments on the ads, it's crazy. Like Mike Alton, he's saying, ha ha ha, I love that scene from DS9. What a great tie-in. What? And then Andrew, he replies to Michael saying, how many people do you even think know what DS9 means? He's totally in disbelief that such an obscure image is generating so much engagement. But what Andrew doesn't understand is that the reason why he's seeing this ad is because he knows what it means. You see what I'm saying? So like the more niche, the more obscure kind of, you know, interests that you can bring into this ad, the more successful this targeting method is. So like, you know, if you're selling, you know, basket weaving, you know, kits, then, you know, target people who also like Metallica. That's some like washed up band from rock band from the 80s, and kind of come up with a clever thing that speaks to both of those interests. And that is such an unusual combination that it will definitely get their attention. You can see here, everyone is screaming like, this is so funny. Okay. So in summary, the way that you're doing Facebook ad targeting is probably wrong. You're probably doing it the old way of targeting related interests. But what I'm trying to tell you is that there's also a lot of interesting cookie ad strategies that you can try if you decide to go against the flow and just target unrelated interests. This can result in totally ridiculous targeting scenarios, as the examples I've shown you today. It works because it makes, you know, very boring ads, you know, remarkably interesting by simultaneously appealing to multiple interests. You know, so this is a really interesting tactic if you're selling like, I don't know, like office stationery or something that's really boring, you know, like you could actually make it interesting. And of course, the strategy is really valuable for cutting down large audiences. So like if your budget is small in comparison to the size of your audience, then just you need to cut down that audience size. Use inverted unicorn.
Just really quickly, Larry, sorry. I said I'd let you talk all the way through, but a couple of things just occurred to me, one of which is the word huge. I think we forget what a phenomenally large audience Facebook has, and that we can dig down. We still find 1,300 people to like something terribly niche like that.
That's right. So that's I think it's actually the only way to make money these days because the prices are so high. All right. So
sorry, there were three questions really very quickly, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but if we ask these later, they won't make sense. How do you know what type of unrelated interest to choose? Do you run a questionnaire?
You know, it's just gut feel. You know, one thing in Facebook analytics that you have in the Audience Explorer, it will show you related interests. So like people who like your page also like, but it also shows you unrelated interests. It's like people who like your page are not likely to like these things. So typically the conventional wisdom has been to go with related interests. And I'm saying like, wait a minute, you know, why don't you target some of those unrelated interests and overlay them and then work that into the copy. It's a novel strategy that is not, it's not really gained much traction. Like I don't see anyone blogging about it or talking about it on the speaker circuit. But I'm finding it's an incredible like way of getting, you know, really shocking reactions out of people.
Absolutely brilliant. Okay, I'll let you carry on. That was the little cut in.
That's great. So number 6, Facebook ad hack. It's called the Facebook web traffic bomb. Okay, so what's a Facebook web traffic bomb? Well, it's basically a web traffic bomb. Okay, so there's a crazy hack to get on the New York Times bestsellers book review list. Jason, do you know what it is?
Yeah, I know what it is. I've never been on it, but you have, yeah?
Yeah, it's so stupid easy. All you do is you just buy a lot of your own books, like all at once, you know, from a few different accounts, and just like buy 5,000 copies of your book from like, you know, 30 different people. And what'll happen is that like that'll create a spike, okay, in sales. And then it'll show up in the bestseller list, okay? And then what'll happen is that because a lot of people read the New York Times bestseller list, they'll see the new book on the list and they'll say like, what is this new book? And so that'll kind of like catalyze sort of an initial interest in your book that based on the activity that you created yourself, okay? And so sites like Hacker News or Medium or LinkedIn Pulse or Reddit, these are all sites that work kind of the same way, where they kind of highlight stuff to their big audience based on, you know, what's popular right this moment. You follow? And so the algorithms are actually pretty stupid. I've, tried mucking around with all of them, and I can kind of explain to you how these work. So Medium in particular is pretty dumb. This article, "Multitasking is Killing Your Brain," it got over 1 million views, 9,012 likes. It was like the most popular article on Medium for a week, it catapulted me to be the number 8 most popular author on Medium, just behind I don't know, Hillary Clinton and Ev Williams, who's like the founder of Medium and Twitter as well. So how the heck is that possible? And how do you generate all these gazillions of page views on these platforms? Well, it's through the web traffic bomb. So all those systems like Medium, it's kind of a content recommendation engine. Okay, so it's kind of recommending what content that their users should read. And how does it do that? Well, it's not by human, they don't employ editors to read every article. You know what I mean? Like they're using user engagement signals. They're looking to see what's popular. Like, are a lot of people reading this article? And if so, that probably means it's very interesting and that we should send it out to more people in their email, the kind of recommended reading digest, or that we could kind of surface these stories in the Medium app, like the reader. And so if that's how those systems work, then it's kind of would make sense to send signal to those platforms to kind of have them take notice of the content that you're looking to promote. And so if that's the case, you can use Facebook for this. You can use Facebook as a web traffic bomb to direct enormous amounts of traffic from different IP addresses to specific pieces of content on certain platforms, so that those platforms will, really think that piece of content is super, super interesting. Now, because I don't want to waste your money, you don't have to buy the most expensive $200 CPM audiences. You can choose the cheapest audiences, because all we're trying to do here is send signal to those platforms to say that people are interested in this story. So you can buy the cheapest clicks available. Like it can be, previously, like the inverted unicorn, we were being very picky and kind of come up with these crazy combinations. This is kind of the opposite. I'm saying just pick anything, worldwide. Go with the cheaper placements like Audience Network. And what happens when you do this is you end up generating a lot of traffic for very, very cheap. So this is saying oh, well, you got 800 clicks for 1 penny per click. So that's pretty good. Of course, it's from places that aren't that competitive in terms of the ad prices. So yeah, and what happens is that then those clicks, they get delivered. Facebook is so enormous, so that Facebook can fill this order in 10 seconds. All these people are clicking on the article, going to Medium, and then the Medium algorithms just go crazy and start surfacing that content to other people. I've been able to make this work on every of these platforms. Here's an example of an article called "Excel Tricks to Make You a Power User." Okay, so this is 1,564 upvotes. It got to the front page of Life Hacks, which is one of the top 10 most popular subreddits, and it got 500,000 views in about 4 hours. How did I do this? I just used the web traffic bomb, targeting people who like Excel and people who also like Reddit, because in the Reddit algorithm, you need upvotes. So I thought that by targeting by people who also like Reddit, it was likely that they would have a Reddit account, so that they could upvote the story. Okay, so look, it doesn't work 100% of the time. Okay, but what's the probability of you going hot on one of the top 3 subreddits on Reddit? It's 0%. Okay, but for me, I can make it work 1 every 10 tries or something like this. You see what I'm saying? So it's not a guarantee, but it dramatically increases your chances by it's like some chemical reactions need like a catalyst, like a little spark to get the ball rolling. And that's what I'm saying. So if this story wasn't interesting, if it was a stupid story, then it would not have worked. But if it was a really interesting story that did really well in other places, then why not just spend a few dollars to light a little spark so that it'll also do well in other places? So that's kind of my idea here. So that's the web traffic bomb. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. What I love about it is it's so completely contradictory. The first one is saying target incredibly specifically. The other is saying let's start a spark with any kind of person, but we start that spark, and that spark will ignite the platform that you're using, and that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's you, you just gotta tell Facebook exactly what you want it to do, and all these are valid use cases. Just people don't have the imagination to try these things out. But you do, because you are on this webinar, and I hope you can try these out yourself. The Russian ad targeting method. So this is a really interesting kind of thing that the Russians were meddling around in different elections using the Facebook platform, and I think they really have some really clever online advertisers there. I'm not advocating for destruction of society and all this stuff. I don't want you to do horrible things with your Facebook ad campaigns, but nevertheless, it's worth examining kind of how they did what they did. All right, and so to do this, I created a fake news website of my own. So this website, it's like a $9 a year Wix website. It's like Wix is like a cheap website hosting company. And I made my own fake news company called Citizens News Networks. Okay. And if you look at that logo, it's actually the CNN logo backwards. So this is totally fake. Okay. No, seriously, I created a fake news website.
No, I saw the slide deck, but I didn't see that, and now it's just making you chuckle.
And then I filled my fake news website with fake articles. I did not write this article. There's actually websites out there that have the most famous fake news stories. And I just copied some of my favorite ones and put it onto my fake news website. Okay. This one was called Donald Trump Protester Speaks Out. I was paid $3,500 to protest Trump's rally. Okay. This is it was a very famous fake news. Okay. Then I created a fake Facebook page called Citizens News Networks. Okay. It's fake. I created a fake Facebook ads account to promote the fake news on my fake news website, and I spent about $50, targeting swing states like Pennsylvania, etc., to Republicans, to conservatives, not just regular conservatives, but ultra conservatives, like people who are NRA and likely to engage with conservative political content, et cetera, et cetera. So I tried to find ultra right-wing people who I thought would eat up this story because they have this big chip on their shoulder saying these protests are full of fake paid actors or something. It kind of validates kind of their pre-existing biases. And sure enough, I spent a few dollars promoting the post, and the notification screen just lit up. Within seconds, everybody was clicking on it and sharing on it, and they were all talking about it and resharing it. So for $50, I don't like to spend a lot of money on Facebook ads. I like to kind of, I'm cheap. Okay, so for $50, I got 42 likes, 27 shares, 20 comments. 30 people liked the page. They want to get more updates from my fake news page, and I got 2,000 website clicks to the article. Okay, and that's amazing. That's for $50. Again, how is that possible? It's because of how this crazy algorithm works. It likes to surface the stuff that has a lot of engagement. Okay, and the question is how is this possible? Well, there's two things going on that the Russians are using. So the first thing that they did was that they would create these kind of funny stories like this that would just get, kind of stir the pot and get people all riled up. And then they would target people who held those kind of pre-existing biases. But the really crazy thing that the Russians did was that they also targeted the opposite ideological extreme. So they weren't just trying to find supporters of an idea, okay? They were trying to create a fight, okay? They were trying to stir up they were trying to eliminate the moderates. So they would target they would find divisive issues like abortion, and they would target kind of people who are both, fervently for and against abortion. Okay, and so what happens is it's like this is like a powder keg. Like you're just you're starting a food fight. Okay, and you don't have to go with the most divisive social issues, but I wanted to test out this idea. I like to try them out on different platforms, not just Facebook, because Facebook is so easy to manipulate. I tried this out on LinkedIn. Okay, and so I took an article. It said, working moms raise more successful daughters and more empathetic sons, according to a Harvard study. Okay, so I kind of tried to post this, and it got 10,700 likes, 1,500 shares, 390 comments, 65,000 views. So that's incredible. Usually when you do a LinkedIn Pulse article, it gets like 100 views. Okay, this is like 65,000 views. Okay, and so how did I do it? It's the comments. Okay, the LinkedIn Pulse algorithm optimizes for comments and comment replies. Okay, basically, to generate those comments, I use the Russian ad hack method of promoting this article to people who are going to love this article and people who are going to hate this article. So who's going to love an article saying that working moms raise more successful daughters and sons? Well, it's going to be working mothers, like people who are like, chief executive officer who are women and have children. Okay, so these people are they feel so guilty going to work and leaving their child at daycare or with a nanny. And when they see an article saying like, no, you don't have to feel bad. Your children are going to be more successful. They want to validate their life choices. They want to say, see, that's why I'm a working mom, and that's why I'm a CEO. And then they hit the like button and they comment something to affirm their own personal choices. Okay, so you target the people who's going to eat this stuff up, but you also target the people who are going to hate this. Okay, like who's going to hate this article? It's going to be the stay-at-home moms. Okay, like the mommy CEOs and the mommy housewife, the full-time mommies. Why? Because raising children is the hardest job in the world. Okay, like they hate that word, quote unquote, working mothers. It implies like that they're not working when it's actually the hardest job in the world. Trust me, I have 2 boys, 1 and 5. It's the hardest job ever. It's the most rewarding and most important job. So by targeting this audience simultaneously to people who both strongly were predisposed to agreeing and disagreeing with the content, it sparked a very lively discussion, 390 comments, and that is how this article generated that kind of response.
Which is, sorry for me to cut in there. I mean, the third point then, we've got isolating incredibly niche markets of mixed interest. We've got hit it as big as you can to hit that top spot, even if it's only for one day. And then we've got create engagement, whatever that engagement is, they'll sell you the ads cheaper.
That's right. And to do that, you target the ideological extremes and eliminate the center. Now,
super duper.
You don't have to, this is not, the Russians use this to create social divisions within society. Okay. But in marketing, there's plenty of cases where like some people are really like for the keto diet, but other people are for the paleo diet, So like if you're selling the paleo diet stuff, what I'm saying is like, maybe target people who like the keto diet, because they're going to have fervent, beliefs, saying that this other diet is crap. And what I'm saying is that that's okay. So it's not about, making people hate each other, but rather finding kind of where there's, agree to disagree things and people who feel strongly about this. And I think that exists in every business.
Yeah. So engagement, we're looking at engagement. If
you're only targeting the true believers, there's nowhere to go in the comments.
Yeah.
You know what the comments are going to say? It's going to say yes. It's going to say, yeah, good job, or I agree. And then like there's no discussion. And a lot of these platforms, particularly LinkedIn, is optimizing for comment replies. You see what I'm saying?
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I get it. Wonderful.
So my number 4 idea here is remarketing only. Okay, so previously, you would spend money on Facebook ads to do regular campaigns, and then you'd also spend money on remarketing campaigns. But because the Facebook ad prices are so crazy in 2020, I'm just saying just forget about regular ads and only do remarketing ads only, because remarketing ads aren't just a little bit better than Facebook regular ads. They're like, 10 times better. Okay. So, just to give you an example, if I run the same ad, same bids, the same budgets, but targeting two people who visited my website and people who did not visit my website before. Okay. Do you know what the difference is? It's enormous. People who have brand affinity and who've heard of me before are 2 to 3 times more likely to click on my ad. They're also 2 to 3 times more likely to convert and sign up for whatever it is you're selling. Okay. So if you multiply through it, the CPCs are also cheaper because the higher engagement is lower CPC. So if you multiply through, 3 times more likely to click, 3 times more likely to convert, and half the cost per click, what you'll find is that even though you might spend $100 on ads and only 10% of that is to remarketing typically, 70% of the conversions are actually, if you segment it out, it's coming from the remarketing audience. So that tiny little spend of 10% is generating like 70% of the value. Okay. Alternatively, 90% of your spend is just really not that effective. It's only generating like a very small fraction of your conversions. And I've seen this in hundreds and thousands of accounts over the last few years. And so, the remarketing is really, really interesting in that it triples your click-through rates. It cuts your CPCs in half. It triples conversion rates. The problem is that it cuts impression volume by 10x. Okay, so generally, it's the case that whatever you're trying to sell, there's more people who haven't heard of you than have heard of you, right? Because otherwise, why are you trying to sell it? If everyone's heard of you, then there's no need to do marketing. Remarketing is like running a sporting team, like a football team with only defense and no offense. It's not really a great strategy if you're only targeting the people who already love you, okay? Because there's so many other people who don't even know who you are. So what do we do in this situation? The solution is we're going to make that amount of people who are familiar with your brand significantly bigger, like 100 or 1,000 times bigger, but we're not going to do it in Facebook. You used to be able to do this in Facebook when Facebook ads were cheaper, but now it's so expensive on Facebook. We're only going to use Facebook ads for lower funnel conversion. So like converting the remarketing people. And we're going to take all that money that you used to spend on Facebook ads that were just producing nothing and now is a total waste of money. We're going to divert that budget to other crazy audience growth and affinity creation campaigns that are not Facebook ads, such as radio broadcasts or PR stunts or TV stunts, just crazy stuff. Like those hacks that I was showing you earlier about the web traffic bomb or the inverted unicorn or those are like $50, like the Russian method. Those are like $50 ad spends that generate enormous affinity. Like people hear about me through these crazy stunts. Maybe that's how you've heard of me, to join me today. And what I'm saying is just stop wasting the money on Facebook ads. Spend it somewhere else to create the initial affinity. And I can give you a couple examples. So here's a couple examples of generating mad hits for free or very cheap. LinkedIn, again, there's this thing called broetry, where if you can write these stupid double-spaced poems about work and life on LinkedIn, people just eat this stuff up. So this is a stupid 300 character post that says, about how many rejections I got. And basically it took me 15 minutes to write because they only allow for 300 characters. And it generated 850,000 views, as you can see there, but it also generated 25,000 website visitors because, around, 3 to 5% of people actually click through to your profile and check out your website to see who wrote this. So guys, how does marketing really work? Well, it's a 3-step process. The first step is you do something crazy, like some kind of a kooky PR stunt, that kind of, gets people to notice you in the first place. If you think about who's famous in marketing, it's like Rand Fishkin. Well, what did he do? Well, he was really popular on YouTube. So you start some kind of a thing that kind of just gets your name or your business out there. Okay. Then step 2, bias formation. So what happens is people aren't going to buy from you right away, but at the back of their mind, they start to remember you. And so later, step 3, when they want to buy whatever it is they're hoping that you're selling, they're going to remember you, and they're going to be much more likely to buy from you than had they not heard of you before. And so what I'm saying is, step 1 and step 2, don't do that on Facebook. Just do crazy, leverage stunts, and then leverage Facebook ads for harvesting of demand.
Just to cut in very quickly, Mariano Navas says, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've just answered her question, or his question, how this applies to promoting actual products and services. How can we actually get attention and go viral? That's fine, but how can we make it sell? And the answer is remarketing. You get attention, you get people, then you remarket, and that was that.
Exactly, because remarketing.
Am I right or am I wrong?
You got it. It's because once you remarket, it's selling to uninitiated people who haven't heard of you is a suicide mission. You need and you need to generate that initial affinity, and you have to do it on the cheap. You can't be thinking like buying that interest like through Facebook ads. Not in 2019. It's just too expensive.
Mariano's question was about 5 and 6, and it's saying we grab attention, get them on the site, then we remarket with this number 4.
You got it. Number 3, reciprocal.
Sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Number 3, reciprocal remarketing. So another idea here, Jason, is if we can just sell other people's products and services. Okay, so like you're probably wondering, like, well, Facebook ads are hard enough selling my own products, but you want me to sell other people's products? And absolutely yes, emphatically yes. So there's a guy named Neil Patel. He's kind of a genius. We're kind of known for growth hacking and this kind of stuff. We have a lot of similarities. Like we both have pages with lots of fans, and we're both kind of growth hackers, and we're not competitive in any way. He sells services and I sell software. And so he has a huge audience that has affinity with him, and I have not as big as an audience, but a decent sized audience that has affinity towards me and my products. And so if you can agree to, like, I'll spend $10,000 advertising your products if you spend $10,000 advertising my products, then effectively what you're doing is you're doubling the size of those kind of people who are familiar with your brand, because by having that other person talk about your stuff, they're going to be more receptive to that message. And by me talking about someone else's stuff, my audience is going to be more receptive to that message. So you're going to capture kind of the magical elements of remarketing, which is higher click-through rates and higher conversion rates, but also casting a wider net. You see what I'm saying? So this is kind of like a paid version of influencer marketing, where you pay a person like a few $1,000s to post something on their social media feed. You can do the same thing in Facebook ads, where you just do a barter, where you find a non-competitive company and just kind of do an ad swap. Okay. My number 2 ad hack here, we're kind of running out of time. It's Facebook Messenger ads. So most of the ads that you spend on Facebook are traffic engagement and conversion ads, but my favorite one by far is it's these messages, the messaging click to message ads. And so it's kind of like an ad, but when you click on this button, you get everyone's messaging permission. So you get all their contact information and the ability to send broadcast messages to them on Facebook Messenger. And this is pretty interesting, because you can send them all sorts of messages. Like, instead of sending them to a static web page, you can send them into a survey, or you can get them to sign up for something, or you can send them drip campaigns, but all through messaging. All right. And so it's way more interactive than conventional landing pages, because you can do segmentation. You can ask them, like, are you an in-house advertiser or an in-house or an agency? And based on how they answer those questions, you can send them down different funnels. And once you send them down these different funnels, you can make note of who said that they were like an agency or an advertiser, so that you can customize the content to be relevant to their needs. So this is like hey Larry, we're doing a specific event just for marketing agency people, and this gets very high response rates. And so, messaging, if you're not using it yet, I think you're crazy, because it's the best deal on Facebook ads. And just wanted to give you a couple tips on how I use them. One of them is I use kind of this active listening psychological principle, where it's like, if you ask them a question, hey, are you a novice, a fan, or an expert? If they say that they're a novice, you should reflect that back in the conversation. It's like, okay, great news. We've got a chatbot training program specifically for new, people who are new to the field and looking for a guided path. Like, I'm still selling the same software, okay? It's the same video course, but I'm just trying to reflect back their identity, and people like that because it feels like they're being listened to, instead of trying to ram everyone through the same funnel. Here, I'm kind of customizing it based on their identity. Another thing you can do, and these are tactics used by like salespeople. You can use these in messaging. You can offer a concession. So you start off by saying, how much is the chatbot training course? It's $199. What do you think? And there's two buttons. It says, too expensive or great, I'm in. 99.999% people say too expensive. And then you can walk it back and say, I totally agree, it's too expensive. How about $9? I'll give you a 94% discount code. So like if people feel like they're anchoring on this high price, and now they got this message saying like, I'll give you a 94% discount, this absolutely impacts conversions. And so how do you do these Facebook Messenger ads? So this is kind of Mobile Monkey. This is the world's fastest growing messaging platform for marketers, and you can visually create these kind of dialogues that will interact with people. It's kind of like how you use Unbounce or something to create landing pages. Well, you could use Mobile Monkey to create these interactive messaging dialogues to chat with people, and it's very simple. So it's Mobile Monkey. Here's an example of an ad that I ran for my Facebook Advertising Summit earlier this year. You can see here it looks like a regular newsfeed ad, but it says send message. And if you look on the right side, here's kind of a video of what that looks like. It just says like, hey, are you running Facebook ads? He says, yes, I am. And now see how it's saying, asking like, are you an agency or a consultant or an in-house marketer? And depending how they answer, we're kind of coming up with different benefits. And we're also going to send them to the correct landing page. So we're still sending people to a landing page, but we've already captured all their information, received messaging permissions, so I can do drip campaigns and all this stuff, and then sending them to the correct landing page that speaks their language. So that's pretty interesting. But the really interesting thing is just the results. So I'm able to get signups for $3 to $5. Okay. Typically, if you try to drive people into a webinar for on Facebook ads, it's going to be at least in the United States, it's going to be $300, $400, $500 per lead. So this is way better in terms of cost per result. And I haven't seen prices this low since 5 or 6 years ago. After they click on the button, you get their contact information. You can segment the users into different custom audiences. You can upload those custom audiences to Facebook ads as custom audiences to run remarketing ads. And basically, it's a slightly different funnel. You get the contact and messaging permissions initially and up front when they click on the ad, and then you kind of qualify the ad, the user by asking different questions. You can send them to different landing pages, but if they don't sign up, you can still re-engage with them through Messenger. So that's pretty interesting. The last thing I want to show you today is just my Facebook ad hack of Messenger post guard, like their comment guards. So this is just a really cool way of generating comments and turning those comments into leads and emails for your business. So this is just like, I posted a stupid riddle on my post here on my page. It says the battle of the English of the math. One rabbit saw 6 elephants while going to the river. Every elephant saw 2 monkeys, etc. So how many animals are going to the river? And it just says, post your guess in the comments. I'll auto respond to you privately through Messenger, and give you the answer as well as an explanation. So this generated 57 comments, and I converted every one of them into a Messenger subscriber. How do you do this? Of course, you just use a tool like Mobile Monkey, which is the Facebook has Facebook messaging support, and you just create kind of answers to send to users, after they comment. And you just specify what posts you want to send the content to, and it's very simple to set it up. And there's all sorts of different ways you can use this in Facebook. Here's an example of a realtor saying, this house was listed at $100,000. Can you guess what we sold it for? Enter your guess, and I'll send you the answer and a market guide. And so if the user posts on this comment says, I think it was $90,000, they're going to receive a private message in Messenger that has the correct answer as well as a PDF file with a housing report. Okay, so this really simple way, and you can boost these things using boost post, and you end up generating an enormous number of leads at very, very cheap. Again, this is just a feature in MobileMonkey. So guys, the future of Facebook is messaging. It's not the newsfeed. The newsfeed usage is actually in decline. The open rates of messaging are substantially higher than Facebook ads or email marketing. And so if you haven't, people already overwhelmingly prefer doing messaging than emailing in terms of their communication preferences. And a lot of new business APIs are coming out in next year. So might as well jump on this bandwagon, including WhatsApp. So guys, let's just wrap it up today. What does it all mean? We've been, thank you for joining me on this epic journey from donkey land to unicorn land, wherein we discussed my favorite ad hacks to try in 2020. You might think that there was kind of a random list of hacks, but actually there was an organization to those hacks. If you think about what we discussed, I started our discussion at the very top of the funnel. So I was trying to describe ways that you could have growth at the top of the funnel by employing Facebook ads to, get a lot of enormous number of people into your funnel without spending money. We talked about, inverted unicorn, Facebook ad traffic rocket, the Russian ad hacks. These are all crazy loopholes that you can exploit that are legal to dramatically expand the reach of people to seeing your content and your ads. We then moved to the middle of the funnel where I suggested it's time to dump non-remarketing ads and only go remarketing only. And we also talked about kind of reciprocal fan targeting as another way of expanding your audiences so that you can receive the benefits of remarketing without having to spend a ton of money. And lastly, we moved to the lower, bottom of funnel where we talked about two of my favorite ad units that are the most conversion-friendly ad units out there. It's the Facebook Messenger ads as well as the boosted comment guards, which have a really cool feature that lets you, receive messaging permissions like as soon as they engage with your content, and that's like a really interesting way of converting substantially more of these people. So that's our story today. Thank you, SEMrush and Jason, for hosting me. I want to make sure that you get the bonus materials because I know you want to have a great year next year. So go to bit.ly/SEMrush-Larry to get the materials. And any last questions, Jason?
No. I that was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I caught on about halfway through about the idea of building an audience, targeting them, and then you nailed it at the end with really knowing them, getting the Messenger thing going. And I was thinking about it this afternoon. I use Messenger an awful lot. So I'm a big fan now of that idea of Messenger. I'm going to be looking into that. I think we've gone around everything. The questions we've had from the audience were absolutely brilliant. Your explanation and that conclusion were absolutely perfect.
Well, thank you, guys. I just want to wish you a happy holidays and the best of luck with your marketing campaigns next year. And thanks again, SEMrush and Jason, for hosting me. Check out MobileMonkey at mobilemonkey.com for messaging software and the like. And we'll catch you later, okay?
Well, yeah, thank you, Larry. I was absolutely stunned by that. I'm going to be using all that next year. And thank you for coming along. See you next year, I hope. For more unicorns.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.